So before we jump into the structure of an exocrine gland, I just want to compare exocrine glands to endocrine glands. So in these first two pictures, these are examples of exocrine glands. We can see the surface epithelial tissue, and I can see how the glandular tissue is a continuation of that. And also, the product, the secretory product that's produced by an exocrine gland, would be conveyed through a duct right onto the surface, whether that surface be the surface of our skin, as in the case with sweat or oil, or the inside of our mouth, as is the case with saliva. That's basically how an exocrine gland works. That's very different from this picture is showing us an endocrine gland. So we notice how the duct is faded out there. It's people call these ductless glands. It has a rich blood supply, and the product of the endocrine gland, a hormone, will be secreted directly into the blood. We're looking at exocrine glands, glands that are continuous from the free surface, that would, very typically have a duct. Like this is a sweat gland that I'm highlighting, and then there would be secretory cells. Here's another example. This is a sebaceous gland. This is an oil gland that's emptying into a hair follicle. Here's another type of sweat gland, but we can see the basic components. There's the duct, and there are the secretory cells. And so as far as exocrine glands go, they're classified based on the structure of the duct and the structure of the secretory cells. Let me show you what I mean. All of the exocrine glands that they're showing us in these pictures are color-coded, so that the duct portion is yellow and the secretory cells are more orangey red. And so the cells that make up the duct, those don't produce the secretory product. All they do is they convey the product to the surface, compared to the cells that are shaded more orangey red. Those are the secretory cells. Those are the ones that are producing the product that is being secreted from this gland. And so the way exocrine glands are categorized are based on the structure of the duct. Let's take a look at that first. There are two possibilities that they show in this picture. One possibility is that the duct is unbranching, that is just a single straight shot, in other words. And so that's what we call simple. Another possibility is the duct is branching, and you can see that over here. And so in this case, do you notice how the yellow coated duct area is branching into three parts? That's what's known as compound. And so the duct is either simple or it's compound. The secretory cells are named after the shape that they take on. So in this picture, I can see that the secretory cells are basically like an extension of the duct. This is what's known as tubular. So that's an example of simple tubular. Here's an example of compound tubular. Or sometimes the secretory cells take on a more pouch-like, round appearance. This is what's known as alveolar. So that's a simple alveolar gland. Compared to this one is a compound alveolar gland. And there are other secretory cell shapes too, but those are two primary ones. The final topic I want to cover with exocrine glands is called the mode of secretion. The mode of secretion is how the secretory product exits the secretory cell. And so there are three modes of secretion. I'm looking at Blue Histology, the Blue Histology website, which has a great simple little animation showing us Merocrine secretion. Merocrine secretion is just release of the product by exocytosis. So Merocrine mode of secretion just means that the secretory product is packaged in a membranous vesicle. That membranous vesicle is going to fuse to the plasma membrane, taking a look at that animation, and release the product by exocytosis. So Merocrine mode of secretion is very common. Sweat, saliva are two great examples of products that leave the cell using this Merocrine mode of secretion. Here is another mode of secretion, not as common as Merocrine. It's known as Apocrine secretion, and Apocrine mode of secretion is when the secretory product accumulates within the cell It accumulates underneath the apical surface, and then the whole apical surface pinches off with the secretory product. So take a look at the animation and make sure you see the difference between this and Merocrine secretion. This is not exocytosis. Do you see how the red secretion is not in a membranous vesicle? It's taking the surface of the cell off with it. So an example of apocrine secretion would be the way that milk is secreted from secretory cells of the mammary glands. The third mode of secretion is holocrine. That's when the product accumulates within the cell until it actually kills the cell ruptures, and that's how the product is released. And so taking a look at the animation, we can see product accumulates in the cell, it actually kills the cell membrane ruptures, and that's how the product is released. A good example of holocrine secretion would be the release of oil from sebaceous glands.